Hi, I'm Bill Arnold. Thank you for listening to this podcast. There are many more podcasts available at myfaithradio.com. Your support makes this possible. Thank you.
You are not going to believe what happened to me yesterday. But we have to start? Okay.
Oh, don't you know, it's the Bill Arnold Show. It's Bill.
And a warm welcome to the Bill Arnold Show. So glad to have my friend and counselor and professor and author Todd Mulliken here with me in studio. Todd, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Bill.
Yeah, always nice to have you here. Look forward to the time that we have together. I was just talking about how much fun the Counselor's Corner was last month.
Oh, goodness. That
was a blast.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Marcus and Janita are the best. So fun.
You guys play very well in the sandbox. No, really.
We do.
I've observed it over 3 or 4 times together, and there is great energy and synergy, and I can't think of another word, but that's plenty.
Well, and you make it happen, sir.
Well, I'm just glad to do it.
Yeah, and
I'm just the maitre d'. I get the table set, and you guys serve the meal. It couldn't work out any better.
Well, we completely respect each other, which is beautiful.
Yeah.
You know, really honor each other's thoughts and feelings and perspectives, and it's just great to do it.
Yeah. Today we're going to talk about repair strategies to help not only couples, but families learn how to have perspective taking and accountability versus blaming in conflicts.
And how long do we have?
An hour.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'll let you do most of the talking. It's a big topic.
Yeah, I think for most couples and families, we're defined by our worst moments versus our best moments. Instead of learning from our victories, or instead of being defined by our victories and learning from our defeats, we usually are defined by our defeats. Makes sense? So we're really it's exhausting. Conflicts can be really exhausting and hard to do well. There's not many happy endings. Mm-hmm. And most of us didn't see happy endings growing up with conflicts, so we just really don't know what to do. And so we can do my thought of in real time when I'm in an argument with my wife or my family, we can do real time, try to speak without offending, try to listen without defending, ready, go. And we've prayed it up and we're really doing the best we can. But in that moment, our nervous systems get, on alert, our fight or flight kind of takes over, our past trauma loops take over. And
Mr. Cortisol shows up, right?
Cortisol sure does.
Yeah.
And so it's really hard to be at our best in those moments.
Mm-hmm.
So I tend to tell couples and families, just so you know, in those moments, neither one of us can be enough for the other, really. I mean, God can be enough for us. But it's hard to be enough for the other in that moment. So let's do the best we can not to, put all of our money in those moments emotionally and bank resentments against each other. But let's be committed as a couple. Let's be committed as a family to circle back and to try to do some repair. Not every 5 seconds, not every 55 times in a row, but in the big ones where we really start building cases against, really start kind of judging, really start getting kind of in the blame game a lot. Let's see if we can circle back and be more in our wise minds versus our hurt minds, because hopefully we'll be a little more regulated when we're committed to coming back. And if you will, kind of trying it again. So I have a couple of strategies I've worked with couples and families on the last 5 years that seem to be helpful, and they certainly don't fix things overnight, but ideally, it gives them a generational commitment to know that we want to create some reasonable endings more than unhappy endings and estrangement and bitterness and resentment and scorekeeping.
Okay. You said a lot in that couple of minutes, and I want to go back and just take it a little slower. One of my favorite things you say is to speak without being offensive and to listen without being defensive. Boy, people could do that. That would be a game changer.
On the front end of things, it does. I mean, you're absolutely right, Bill. And, so I think our first step there, at least I know for me, is to do my own internal work with Jesus about where do I land on that continuum? Am I more like, fire ready aim, and I kind of speak like interrogatively versus interactively when I'm speaking, when I'm leading out? Do I have a need to kind of win, be a last word Larry, or am I tending to go to more of the avoidant, kind of wear it, build a case against, defend, kind of always climbing uphill? It's not an either or, but in my experience as a counselor, it seems like we have a tendency to run towards one side or the other. So I think the first step there is for you and I just kind of being open to seeing what our tendencies are under stress and really do our own work on that ahead of time, so that tomorrow afternoon when I'm going to see my in-laws, or tomorrow morning when I know I'm going to have a visit with a friend of mine who can be kind of difficult, how am I prepping with the Lord going into it versus expecting myself to just respond differently because I heard a radio show yesterday or something about it.
Todd, what if we have a damaged pattern in our relationship and the way we talk, and my emotional tank is low? So you tell me to not listen defensively, but I don't have enough emotional juice in the tank to do that.
Yeah, right. So
how do I do that?
Yeah, great question. And in a perfect world, what we're trying to do is say, okay, if you will, how is that working for me? Building a case against, right? So the reason my tank is lower is because I've been reciting in my mind the most difficult thing my wife has said to me the last 15 years. And so when we get into a fight, here she goes again. Or a sibling, I know where you're, you don't have to say anything. I know where you're going. Right? So we're just, it's kind of there for us. And I don't hear no judgment in that, but just know that's my broken pieces of my nervous system responding and reacting. And you're right, Bill. So in that moment, it's very challenging. But if I'm committed on the front end to see the other and their story, which we'll get to in the repair stuff, then I kind of have an understanding about their brokenness too. And so now I'm going to hopefully worry more about my own 50% and get my mirror size that I'm looking at a little bit smaller and looking more at trying to understand the other a little bit more, which includes saying that was really hurtful what you said yesterday. But I'm going to try not to defend. I'm going to try to first try to understand what's happening here and why they feel the way they do. I'm going to try to be curious more than judgmental. I'm going to try. With God's help, I'm going to try to stay curious versus judgmental. I'm going to try to say, tell me more, or, gal, you know what, I'll be vulnerable in my response. My mind's going right here, right now, and here I go, and feels like we're in that loop now, and I just don't feel good about it. And so I'm at least not attacking. I'm at least letting them in. I'm not, kind of matching it in a way that's mutually unhealthy. So I do think James is absolutely right when he says quick to listen. And listen doesn't mean defend. Listen means to try to understand, or to try to seek to understand at least.
What if I'm seeking to understand, but my body language says, boy, am I mad at you?
Yeah.
I mean,
right?
how can I fake that?
Fake till you make it, right? Well, I think I'm going to be honest about it, and the other person might not buy it. They might, again, that's why I'm a believer. If I'm mistrusting my sister's intent or my wife's intent or whoever God's got in your mind right now, I don't trust their intent, and that's what I call a hurt mindset. So, if I write a script about what's wrong with my wife and I don't trust her intent, I'm building a case against, here's the 5 things wrong with her, she still isn't fixed, and that's it. So again, where is that getting me? Where it can get me in a reasonable way is us having an honest discussion about the hurts, right? So I'm not saying avoid the hurts, but I'm saying if I'm going into that conversation with that kind of mindset, then I don't even trust their intent. And I think they are intentionally trying to do something to me. And there is 1% of the population that actually does that. They premeditatively, they intentionally are doing that to somebody else. But most of the people in real time are reacting out of their own survival in that moment.
So, Todd, what happens when the heavens open up and 1 million cubic pounds of grace gets poured into your life? Then what? Isn't that how we should be responding anyway? because that's what we get from our Heavenly Father.
And we get to do that. And you and I both know when we forgive, we release out towards the other with some boundaries. But we extend grace not because we're naive and weak, but we're doing all the Beatitudes. We're practicing meekness, which is strength under control.
I love that.
Right? It doesn't mean we're weak or passive. And I think that's the lie.
Yeah.
Whether it's Satan or your biology or family of origin issues or all the above, they come in and the inner critic sets up shop and says, you are weak. You are letting them do something to you. And then you hear a podcast that says, don't you ever, that's weak. You're giving all the power to the other person, and here's what they're doing to you. And once in a while, it's truly abusive and change the locks. Okay? So I'm not talking about I'm talking about the majority of situations, not all, right? There are intolerable situations that where surgery on that issue needs to be done before we can have any kind of reasonable conversation.
Todd, what if I'm a little bit at fault here in this situation and you confront me with it and I say, okay, let me take that. Let me absorb that. That's true.
Yeah, thanks for letting me in. I hear you. Hey, even in a perfect world, tell me more. I mean, because ideally in a perfect world, which you don't live in, but as you said, grace upon grace, and we're filled with it. I'm as broken as you are, right? I mean, so tell me more. What do you got?
Yeah.
So in my world, anyway, if I feel like I love who I am in Christ and, the victory has been won and, relationships are challenging and certainly conflictual situations are just naturally challenging. I want to run for the hills typically. I don't look forward to them. Some people look forward to them. And I go, praise God for that. I'm glad there are people out there that don't mind conflicts. I can't stand them personally, but when you're there, I say, let's go. I mean, God's still on the throne last time I checked. And so ideally we're staying present, right? And just kind of tell me more what you're thinking, And
Todd,
again, each situation is different, but that's the posture we want to have. We want to have a posture of curiosity versus judgment.
Mm-hmm. Todd, give me an idea of what the conflict avoider profile looks like.
Generally people pleasing, generally being defined by how things go versus defined by their own intent. So when they're generally people pleasing, so
I get that part.
Yeah, pleasers are more defined by how it's going to go. So in other words, hey, I get into a conflict with my wife tonight. I learned from my counselor, just be honest. Love must be sincere. Romans 12:9, just be honest. So I'm honest with my wife about, hey, it was really hurtful what you said yesterday, and it goes horribly. Then I go to my counselor tomorrow afternoon. What did you tell me to do that for? It was horrible.
Yeah, tank the evening.
Yeah, just tank the evening. Why would I do that? Well, honesty today prevents problems tomorrow. So now we had a difficult discussion. So we can either avoid all that and build cases against each other and have a nice, coexisting marriage where we're growing apart versus growing together, or we can just say, God, that went horribly, and I woke up just feeling horrible. Can we try it again? And then what we're doing as a couple, though, we're committed again to this one of these repair strategies I'm going to talk about eventually. So
yeah, well, I'm looking forward to hearing about these repair strategies. And I think now might be a nice time to just take a short break and come back and start hearing about these repair strategies. Todd Mulliken is my guest. You can learn more about him at toddmulliken.com, Mulliken. Did I spell that right, Todd?
fantastic.
All right. And that website, hopefully. So when do you pay the bill?
Usually on the 31st.
Okay. Yeah. So they could probably access it today.
Good.
So you can go to one.
Well, it needs to be renewed. I mean, it's really anyway.
All right.
But I think it's still good.
You're good. toddmulliken.com. Check it out. We'll be right back. If you by the way, if you have a question or comment as we're going in this discussion, let me know what it is that we can talk about, or you can ask Todd. 877-933-2484 is the text line. We'll be right back. It is my deepest desire that you take the very first step of faith by placing your faith and trust in Jesus Christ. If you've got questions about what it means to begin a relationship with Jesus, text the word faith to 41224. I'm back with Todd Mulliken. He is a counselor. He is a professor. He's an author. He does it all. You can learn more about him at toddmulliken.com, Mulliken. We're talking today about relationships, and repair strategies. Okay, Todd, let's get into this repair strategy number 1.
All right. This is a short one, and it is when we do the short one well, then more often than not, we don't need the longer one.
Oh, I'm intrigued.
So one of the statements I make to most couples and families is we get to serve each other versus scorekeep. So serve versus scorekeep.
Oh, I like that.
And when we're serving, it means we're doing it, like you said beautifully, out of that abundance of grace that we've been given. And the Son of Man, last time I checked, came to what? Came to serve versus be served.
Mm-hmm.
And so we get to do that. We get to honor each other with serving each other. Even folks that are difficult, we get to serve. So when I'm serving versus scorekeeping, my mindset is more on my own side of the street and what I get to do, which includes confronting difficult situations with that person. So it's not about having a party when your house is on fire, but it means my mindset is more having servitude. Because once I'm keeping score, then I'm starting to build a case against to a point where it's not healthy, right? Sometimes we need to build a case against, like I said, if we're with somebody that has a behavioral pattern that's, to a point where we need help, and we need to do that. But what I've seen the last, especially 20 years, is that things that are natural ways of communicating differently under stress is now being kind of taken to places where these things are unacceptable. So I think if I have a model of serving versus scorekeeping, a model of being accountable for my own side of the street, then what we have in the marriage, Bill, or in the family structure is we have this idea that we are going to be much more accountable first versus blame first. Okay?
Say that one more time.
So,
I get the accountable before blame.
Yep. I mean, more accountable versus blame. So I just had an argument with my wife. In our situation, my wife's more fight, I'm more flight. At her best, she's decisive, gets to the hard stuff much more beautifully and much more swiftly than I do. At her worst, maybe, her words aren't the best, right? For me, my best is I'm trying to seek to understand and trying to be reasonable. At my worst, I shut down, freeze, fawn, don't know what I'm doing, and it's like, oh my goodness, right? So now what do we do with that? So one repair strategy, and something that my wife and I have worked on over the years, is we kind of first knew each other's stories, where we came from. And so I sought to understand like her story and what happened to her under stress growing up. And she shared a lot about that. And then she, perspective taking, asked me too, and so I talked about that. So we had more of a sense of the playing fields we each came from.
Yeah.
Versus building a case against. I hope you hear the difference there. I'm seeking to understand versus building a case against.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So you've heard me say enough times, you probably want to fire me, is see it, don't wear it, right? So I'm seeing the other versus taking on all their stuff, because I got enough stuff of my own.
Say that one more time and explain it a little bit in more detail.
So I'm seeing...
See it, don't wear it.
I'm
what does that
seeing
mean?
the other. So when I see the other, I have a better chance to see their story, their stuff, their broken spots.
Okay. What does the don't wear it mean?
Don't wear it means I'm not going to take it on.
Oh.
And sometimes people take and I get it, maybe I'm wrong on this, Galatians 6 stuff about carry each other's burdens. And we do carry each other's burdens in Christ, but also I think the Holy Spirit came to comfort, to advocate on our behalf, all the things Jesus had the Holy Spirit do for us. So I think sometimes I will take on too much of what my wife's story is, or my, whoever is else in my life, whoever God's helping you think about today, a family member. So it doesn't mean I'm dismissing, I'm just not wearing it as much because I'm seeing it more. I have an understanding of her broken spaces like I have an understanding of mine. And so now what we're trying to do is create a safe place to just have ownership of our own parts versus folding our arms and waiting for the other person to do their part perfectly.
Mm-hmm. Where does empathy come in with all this?
Perfectly. Empathy is your superpower along with curiosity. Empathy are what we call in my field pro-social movements. Empathy, gratitude, forgiveness, curiosity. Those are all like movements towards the other from a place of being content within self, even amidst the heart. But as I started the show, remember under stress, it's like, how do you even spell empathy? Under stress, it's really hard because survival, what does it say when you're on an airplane and the airplane's going down? What do? Put your own oxygen mask on first, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we're doing these repair strategies to circle back, so we're not defined by that moment. We're learning from that moment. We're coming back when we're a little more regulated, and we're trying to do these strategies. So we're more defined as a couple and as a family by our repairs versus our worst moments.
Todd, where does scorekeeping come from? Is that like when you're 2 years old or 3 years old and you know what fairness feels like? You know, he took my cookie and I don't have a cookie now, so this isn't fair.
God, you nailed it. And actually, age 5 to 6, fairness is the loudest trait.
It is, isn't it?
Those ages, yeah. And it's just not fair, right? So, yeah.
So is that why we keep score? Because something isn't fair.
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay.
It's fair to keep score, and I think we're keeping score ends up moving from seeing the other to like, I don't trust you. It's now that I'm thinking, and now I think, and here's what I hear a lot, like, so let's say in this fight that I just had with my wife, I think she's doing this to me. She is doing this to me. Versus me also saying, well, I'm doing something to her. Well, she's doing this to me, and she's intentionally doing this to me. No, actually, it's a reaction from her story. I get it. And she's actually owning it. She's actually working on it, just like I'm working on my stuff. So you hear the difference there. There's more of a accept one another as Christ accepts us in Romans 15:7 versus like, I'm not accepting that. And sure, I'm hurt by that. I'm going to set boundaries with it. But both people are going to work on their side of the street versus build a case against and score keep against, right? So the way I put the scorekeeping is my forgiveness bank account got more money in it than my resentment bank account, which has got more money in it.
Which is what you want.
Right. And and usually my resentment bank is flush full of cash, right? And my capacity of forgiveness and seeing the beauty and the value of it is just, it's in second place. And when that's going on, then I build a case against much more quickly in those moments. I protect self to a point where it's not helpful, and repair is not even possible, right? What's possible is to kick the can down the road and sweep it under the rug, and both people go to their own corners, and eventually time passes. And that's the way most people deal with it. Or the other way people deal with it is one person just pacifies the angry person all the time and says, yes, dear. So those are the two ways you usually see it, and both are extremely unhealthy.
And that's a conflict avoider, isn't it?
It is.
The yes dear is you're avoiding it. You just want it over with.
We do.
Without processing it.
Correct. And 10 times out of 10, those people are in my office 15 years in, and the conflict initiator says, I didn't think there was anything wrong. And the conflict avoider saying, here's my resentment bank account, and, just dumps it on the table.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so, and I would offer like, the iniquity of the direct person is on their sleeves, right? In your anger, do not sin, Ephesians 4:25 and 26. But it also says in 26, I'm supposed to be honest to my neighbor. So what I tell the pleaser, day 2 in the marriage, if they see this pattern, be honest about how it feels. Well, I'm not going to be honest because it doesn't go well. I said, well, I want you to be honest because if honesty today prevents problems tomorrow, now this issue is on the table. So we have to address the mess versus avoid the mess.
Mm-hmm.
When we avoid the mess, we carry the mess. But the pleaser will say to me, it's not worth doing, right? It's not worth the squeeze because it won't go well. Does that make sense? So they're defined by how it goes versus, you and I, if we want to take a look at most of the scriptures of conflicts that Jesus had, they weren't like amazing. They were problematic. They were difficult.
They're messy.
Yeah, they're just messy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what conflicts are. They're messy.
Mm-hmm.
So we're trying to do in my field the last 20 years plus is try to create strategies or movements that help us restore mutually. So sometimes as a believer, we're restoring and we're forgiving 70 times 7, but we're on our own island with it, and it's really lonely and scary and hard, and we don't feel any mutuality in the marriage or the family.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really challenging, and we're called, to forgive 70 times 7 with boundaries, if you will. But it's lonely and hard. So what we're trying to do now in my field is at least for me, I'm doing quite a bit of, is more about mutuality and accountability for both parties, for all parties in the family, versus scorekeeping, building cases against, and resentment building.
Todd, what is the barking dog in this situation? Is it pride or survival or both or neither?
I like both of those.
Okay.
And again, I would also offer, and this is what's kind of cool to see with couples that are in my office that have kids. They'll see with their 7-year-old, they're barking at that kid way too harsh in a way that they were barked at. Makes sense? And now they're starting to see, whoa, my kid is shutting down. I didn't go and circle back age appropriately with whatever age a kid is. You know what I mean? And I'm seeing I'm doing that, and I don't like what I'm creating, and I'm repeating what I saw. And that's when the beautiful generational shifts come in those moments of awareness of, look what I'm doing, repeating what I saw. But a lot of times that doesn't happen. We just repeat what we saw, and generational patterns, all the blessings and the curses continue.
Up on the text line, Todd, I am extremely conflict avoidance. Any suggestions for holding my own in a difficult discussion?
Great question. I think avoiders, if that person's anything like me, we tend to go like, well, that didn't go too well. And always know, like, because whenever I do pre-marriage classes, I always tell the avoiders, the only thing you have to do, there's only one word you have to do the rest of your life, just one word. And so I do the name that tune or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And, give me a letter, and it's honest. I just have to be honest. Honesty today prevents problems tomorrow. It's going to cause a big problem today. But as we find our voice, as we speak what's on our mind, even though it's hard to do, even if it's not received well, we start to gain freedom in being honest and truthful. And, that verse is misused a lot. The truth will set you free. We use it in so many contexts, but just being truthful really is freeing. Even if it doesn't go well, we don't, and even if the other person gets hurt, when our intent isn't to hurt, then we can circle back and say, my intent was not to hurt. I was just trying to be honest. And they said, well, it really hurt. I said, I hear you and I love you. I'm just letting you know that my intent was just to be honest about my side of the street. I hope that makes sense. So we stay fair. And that's the best part about the avoiders. The avoiders will usually have grace upon grace. They usually will fight fair once they get in there, but they usually fawn over the other person versus fight. Usually will glamorize their spouse or go, well, it's not that bad, or like he or she was, they didn't mean to scream at the kids, or they'll minimize, avoid, deflect. So the avoider just needs to be honest about what they're feeling. And then what they'll do a great job of is then volley it over. So I talk a lot about 3 V's, vulnerability, validation, and a volley. So when I'm done as an avoider speaking up, I just get to say, but what do you think? And usually avoiders will be good at that. Usually drivers are not good at creating a volley. They're just good at building, just kind of holding court.
What if your honesty is dismissed?
Yeah, then I can either be defined by their dismissal, or I can be defined by the freedom I feel to say what's on my mind. And that's where the pleaser gets in the other person's head too much, and they're too defined by what the other person is feeling or not feeling, thinking or not thinking, and I can't wear that. I can't. My body isn't sustained. We're not called to wear that. We're called to have empathy and understanding, which is walk alongside, not wear it. We're called to be empathetic, not codependent. Codependency, we take it all on, right? We wear it like crazy, and our body's going, what in the world is this doing in here? Empathy is coming towards and understanding. So perfect world is like, they went there with that. Ooh, that wasn't my intent. Let me circle back, and not like I got to rescue them. It's like, but I'm comfortable with knowing my intent was good. Like James says, why are all these quarrels amongst you, brothers and sisters? Well, I'm just being honest. And when the avoider starts being honest, trust me, that's as important to the family structure as it is for the driver to start speaking in interactive ways versus interrogative ways. When the avoider speaks up, it's generational. It creates change. It helps the quiet kid realize, mom or dad have their voice and I don't have mine. How do I find mine? So it's really... It's really freeing for the avoider just to start just talking their thoughts.
Wyatt, is it time for a 5-person survey?
If you say so.
Well, what would you like to do?
I thought you had one in mind when you said that.
Oh, I did have something in mind.
Okay, good, because I don't have anything. So.
Oh, okay. Are you in a relationship where scorekeeping is involved?
Just a simple yes or no, huh?
Just a yes or no.
Yeah. Are you in a relationship where scorekeeping is involved? You can text yes or no to 877-933-2484. And we take the first 5, right?
Yeah, just the first 5. So we'll get probably results quickly.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, we're going to take a short break and come back. Lots more with Todd Mulliken. You can go to toddmulliken.com, and we'll be right back in just a couple minutes. Our guest is Todd Mulliken today. We're talking about repair strategies, and we just completed repair strategy number 1.
Kind of. Can we wrap that baby up?
Yeah, let's do it.
So the strategy is actually in place. What's happening is we are both people or all parties at their own time are really becoming good at leading out with confession. So a fight just happened in the family. A fight just happened with a couple. What all parties are getting better at is looking in the mirror versus pointing the finger. And so what there is in the family system, what there is in the couple and their dyad, is this freedom to know that both people are doing their part and coming towards each other. We're not keeping score to see who said sorry, I'm sorry last, or hey, my spouse hasn't said sorry in a week. I said it twice, so I'm waiting. It's 2-zip. Right.
Yeah, it's her turn.
Yeah, that makes sense. So
Yeah,
we're just kind of scorekeeping and kind of good luck. It's just an uphill climb because now we're, judgment is kind of louder than grace, and I'm enough in Jesus just to own my part, not as a checking the box, but as like, oof. Because here's the other deal, two things I want to say quick. One is like when you hear from, your spouse or somebody you're dating that they really have remorse for what they said or how they froze you out, and that you really sense their, authenticity about it, really feels good. It really feels good to hear like the other person owning their part.
Mm-hmm. How often does that happen?
I think it kind of depends. I think some couples are good at it. A lot of people aren't. That's why I'm in business, But I'm just saying it's hard to do, but it's freeing to do.
Yeah.
And, you called out earlier, what is it? Is it pride? What is it?
Survival.
Survival.
Yeah.
And of course, what the truth about that is when I'm open enough to share, hey, that one's on me yesterday. I don't know what I was thinking. It's like, that just, it frees you up to be like, content with yourself. And Paul said to be content when things are good. Oops, I guess both. Content and the want, right? I get to be content in all things, which doesn't mean I'm always having a party. I mean, it's like, it just means I'm comfortable enough to say, good leaders own their mistakes, right? Unhealthy leaders never say they do anything wrong. It's always everybody else's fault. We got a top-down thing. Don't even get me started on that. So it's just good leaders do that. So if in a couple where both people are kind of trying to lead well, when a family, we're all trying to do our roles well and do our lives well. It's just good to know we've got a structure that we're committed to trying to own our own part, not out of a place like, I better do this. Like, no, I get to do that. I get to do that. And so I'm going to be vulnerable and just say, gal, yesterday when I, froze you out, that's on me. And I'm so sorry for that. And it must have felt horrible. Then I expect the other person to receive that and to validate it. Say, I appreciate you saying that. And there's what we call there, Bill. Remember how I started the show with not many people have happy endings growing up? Mm-hmm. There's a happy ending right there. And now you have a little bit of begin to have a new wiring in your neural pathways, and a little bit of the nervous system being a little bit tweaked, just a little bit.
Yep.
Yeah, so we're starting a different bank account, a little bit, different stress responses. And it's not like it's, transformative overnight, but over time, that becomes, ideally for me with that situation, that becomes a little bit more normative versus a rare exception. So it's not about perfection, but just about repair strategy number 1 is get good as a couple with owning your side of the street. Look for it. Again, not from a place of shame and, it's just more from a place of healthy conviction. As Christians, we're called to, and I have, to understand the power of conviction, the power of freedom, and boy, as Christians, we get to lead out with mercy and lead out with confessional spirit. So I believe a lot in a confident humility. I think that's like the sweet spot for people to have.
I like that.
So, but when both people are doing that strategy, it's very freeing. It's very mutually disarming. Because here's what happens when I'm leading out with what I did wrong. I am not speaking to offend. I'm speaking to take responsibility. Mm-hmm. And guess what? 9 times out of 10, my spouse will not listen to defend. She won't say, it's about time. Maybe once in a while, that person might do that. But more often than not, to go, thank you. Or they might even cry and say, geez, this is why we fell in love. Forgot.
Yeah.
So that's when it's really like, ooh, beautiful. So we get to run to that, and, I invite everybody to try that because the alternative is worse.
I heard a pilot, I think I've mentioned this before, maybe even with you, but it's left such an impression on me. This pilot was talking about if I leave San Francisco headed to Los Angeles and I start and I'm one coordinate off, I will miss the airport by 6 miles. So you're trying to confront me lovingly, but we're not even close to the airport because we've drifted that far in that period of time.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we get onto the same runway when there's so much resentment built up?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. And, a lot of people, sometimes we start with going to a marriage-intensive weekend, or we start with, separation, or we start with something. But wherever you do it, whatever you do, if I'm continuing to build a case against, good luck. If I'm continuing to see, like, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do my 50% well, and I'm going to model that, not because I'm dumb, stupid, and naive, but because I'm powerful and I'm beloved by God. So let's go. But you're right, Bill. But what that does with that relationship that has grown apart versus together, it stops the bleeding for a moment, And we need those moments of touch that way. We need the moments of mercy versus resentment building. We get to do that. This is not this is an opportunity, not an obligation.
Mm-hmm.
It's the freedom we have. It's not an obligation. But to your great point, it's very tricky. It's very hard to do, especially if it feels like we've drifted. Or I've had people say, well, they're going to use that against me then.
Yeah, sometimes the drifting is the excuse.
Right. Yep.
And that's kind of a bad excuse.
I agree. So worst case, the person uses it against me. Well, all right, how's that working for them? Like, okay, I see you doing that. It's really hurtful when you use that against me. I'm really sad about it, and I feel lonely in that. And so I'm not asking people just to, take it. I'm asking people not to worry about winning the fight, but just, being honest when you're on the receiving end of something like that. So just so you know, the other thing real quick is, when I'm leading out with something that's wonderful, or your spouse is leading out with something wonderful, or your sibling you haven't talked to in 2 years is leading out with something that's merciful, receive it, join them in the moment, versus hey, I'm not ready for that because, 2 days ago you were not nice to me, so I'm not taking that. And boy, that's where a lot of the lack of ability to heal comes from, is can the person lead out well with mercy, and can the other person receive the mercy? So that's strategy number one. It's all people are kind of good at that.
Mm-hmm.
Strategy number 2, there's 5 steps.
Of strategy number 2? You should have told me this in advance.
Poor Bill. So, can I give you a couple-minute overview?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So, and just give you the 50,000-foot view.
Okay.
Okay, so this is a 5-stepper that couples do or families do with big stuff that they're really trying to heal and trying to create some traction, trying to see if they can get better. The first step is they think of an incident that happened, and they're committed to, we're just going to talk about the incident, and we're going to try to do it in a way that's repairing versus case building against. Okay? So the first step is we each share a couple feelings we had, just straight feelings. I felt hurt. I felt dismissed. The other person said, I felt really anxious. I felt like I wanted to run. A couple feelings, that's it. Second step, this is where the power starts coming. The second step is I share. So let's say Laura and I did it. She fought and I flighted, and we had a hangover for a day emotionally. We wanted to come back. We shared a couple feelings. Second step is we each share our perspective of what happened. So I just shared, here's what I think happened. I felt like you came in too hot, and I shut down, and I was really hurt by it, and that's how I felt. Then wait for it. She would say, I can see how you got there. So she, instead of defending, she doesn't, submit or defer or, she just acknowledges how I got there. And 9 times out of 10, it's reasonable where each person got, kind of. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So I sit, and then she leads out with, here's my perspective. I felt like I shared something, and I tried to circle back, and you weren't ready, and you shut down, and that was really hurtful to me. And I can go, I got it. I see how you got there. Thanks for letting me know. So now what we have is 2 regulated people who are committed to trying to have perspective of what happened. The third step is, and this is where it gets really deep, we each share a trigger, because triggers that you have, that I have, that we all have from our stories are enduring vulnerabilities. They don't go away completely. They don't. They're part of our pain and our story. God holds us in that. God comforts us in it. So then we each share a little bit about a trigger we had. And I've had a family do it last week in my office, and it went great. It doesn't always go great, but it went great. And this is where, when the trauma stuff happened, each shared their traumas they've had from their story about, hey, I think when you came on strong with me like that, it really reminded me of this issue for me and my story. Mm-hmm. And that's where I went. So now what Laura did to me, what I did to Laura, I see where they went with that.
Makes sense, doesn't it?
I have compassion.
Yeah.
And the person does the same thing. They share their trigger, and we validate it. Step 4 and step 5 are good closers. Step 4 is we each take responsibility for what we did in the fight. Step 5 is we each say what we're going to do different next time.
Oh, I like that.
So that's the 5 steps. It's usually about a 20-minute deal. It's good.
I like it. We're going to be right back with Todd Mulliken. You can learn more about Todd at his website, toddmulliken.com, Mulliken. We'll be right back. We carry each other's burdens. Please know you can bring us your prayer concerns, and we will pray. Share your prayer requests with the Faith Radio team by texting or calling 877-933-2484, or share your prayer requests with the Faith Radio staff and listeners at myfaithradio.com. I'm back with Todd Mulliken. Todd is a counselor, and he's also an author and a professor. Kind of does it all. All right, Todd, question came in on the text line. What if you're the third person? For example, a married couple has one person who is defensive and guilt-tripping. The other either avoids or gets snarky around the first person. And you're the adult kid trying to navigate their broken relationship plus relationship with them as individuals.
Whew.
That's a big question.
Love the insights.
Oh, my. Yes.
Well, first of all, they get to understand that they're not responsible for their stuff, but they can, I always say, let each other in versus take things out on each other. So I think that person could either, while their parents are together or separately, they could just say, hey, just let you know, this is how your dance is affecting me right now. I just want to let you in. You know, it's just really hard, and I'm scared. I just don't know what to do, and I'm really sad about it. So they could do that. They could kind of, again, honesty today prevents problems tomorrow. They lead out well by letting them in about their own pain from what's going on versus kind of like, here's the 20 things wrong with each of you, figure out your stuff. So that's clearly one step they could make. The second step I would have that person do is in their own internal work, saying like, okay, am I more like this or am I more like that myself? Look at my own story, and what do I want to tweak for me moving forward? Does that make sense? What learn from versus be defined by. I don't want to be defined by their stuff. I want to learn from it. So their transformational move in their own generation moving forward is, what do I want to take with me? What do I want to leave behind? So they're also doing some of their own work. Then the third thing is they can go individually to each person and just talk about their own feels that are unique to that person. And say, hey, with the avoider, no, this is just what I feel when I'm with you, and how about you? What do you think? So they're creating some dialogue with each of them individually. But ideally, they are seeing what's going on versus taking it on. Because what happens in the pain and in the stuff, we want to get right in the middle of it. And we can do that once in a while, but if we start doing that, we get a social worker degree and we become a pastor and we grow up too fast. It's not fair to us.
Mm-hmm. How do we prevent from putting people in categories where I say, in this situation, you go, well, this person's impossible. So they're in the impossible category now. Yeah. So it doesn't matter what happens.
Yeah.
And let's say this whole situation that just was described on the text line, maybe they're headed for the end zone and it's going to be over.
Yeah.
And this is heartbreaking. Yeah, and nobody wants this.
No, and they get to let them in about that. So just so you know, let's say they think, or let's say the parents have said, hey, just so you know, we're divorcing, or just so you know, we're separating or something.
Yeah.
And just they get to let them in about how that feels for them, And the healthy parents would say like, hey, we want to talk to you about what's going on, and this has been really hard, and how are you doing? And that usually doesn't happen. Usually the two parents that are going through that kind of stuff are in their own survival, and they're not able to see the perspectives of the kid or the kids. That makes sense? So the kid, now as an adult, is seeing it, and they're taking it all on.
Mm-hmm. Why do you think the love has grown cold?
Well, I think it's a little bit what we're talking about today. You know, when you have some good things that happen, but you never repair the conflicts, you grow apart versus together. You just slowly become transactional. You move from transformational to transactional. You slowly keep score, not because you're judgmental and inadequate and pharisaical, but because you're just continue to be in pain. Mm-hmm. And that's why repairs really matter. They don't have to be perfect or beautiful, but we just know we're committed to coming back and owning our part. And that's just, it's completely freeing for a couple to do that. But it's really, most people didn't hear their most dominant parent say to them, I'm sorry. So when they become a big person, they're in a fight with their partner, significant other, or somebody they're married to, like, I'm going to win this one because I never won growing up.
Boy.
And I see that all the time. So I get to say, you get to win by saying you're sorry. You're powerful.
Yeah.
You have confident humility about you.
So let's say the couple leaves in the morning to go about their days, and they resume back at the home at 5:30, 6 o'clock. What's the best thing the woman can do, and what's the best thing a man can do to have that peace and love and grace in the house?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's two things. One is on the proactive end, it's just being curious about your spouse, have that policy of care, start caring versus dismissing, start serving versus scorekeeping. So the alternative is worse. So I think that movement of mutual curiosity is very freeing, as well as confessing stuff that needs to be cleaned up. I mean, when you attack both sides of the street, when you increase positivity through curiosity and empathy and serving, those are good movements. And when you also try to repair things by just having that confessional lead out with, I'm sorry about yesterday, that's on me. And I know we've had a pattern of that the last 155 years, and I'm trying to figure it out, and I'm really sorry. And that's a start.
Mm-hmm. I really like that answer, Todd, but I'm still going to dig here.
Please.
So the man comes home, and what does the man do that the woman just loves?
She feels seen. She feels chosen.
Okay.
She feels noticed. So he's curious about her. She feels like he can't wait to see her, in a perfect world.
Yeah.
Right. Women, most of the people in my office, a woman doesn't feel chosen. The guy feels like he can't do anything right.
Okay. So the man comes home. He's had a really horrible day at work. His nervous system is frazzled to the bone. And he walks in, and there's 9 things that he has to take care of right away, and his nervous system never settles down.
Correct. And so the woman gets to see him versus build a case against. She's building a case for, and he goes, how's your day? What do you got? Versus like, hey, why aren't you thinking about me? So women their struggle tends to be is looking at who their guy isn't yet versus who he already is. And the guy's problem, he just doesn't think enough about his wife and go find her and choose her and notice her.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Those are good things to work on.
Yeah. Good work, Todd.
Thank you.
I mean, thank you for this discussion.
I appreciate the opportunity. I really do. It's an honor to be here, and this is stuff I see all the time, and just committed to helping folks with that.
You have a very kind and gentle spirit, and you're so biblically solid that I always know I'm going to get amazing answers from you.
Thank you.
Even if my questions aren't that great. And we know that's happened before.
Oh, goodness, Bill.
Yeah.
Appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you. Todd Mulliken has been my guest. If you want to learn more about Todd, he's got books he's written. He's got all kinds of things right available at his website, Todd, Todd, Mulliken, Mulliken. His office is in Edina, Minnesota, but I have a feeling people can still contact him anyway, can't they?
Correct. Yep.
Email, they can even be a Zoom call or just about anything.
Yeah, I do virtual, absolutely.
Yeah.
I do phone as well.
So thank you for that. Hey, I don't know if you've downloaded the Faith Radio app. Go to your app store and check it out. I have to say, it's a beautiful app. I've got mine on my iPhone, and when you download it, you just can't believe how pretty it is. And you open it up, and it's very easy to navigate your way through it. And you can listen to Faith Radio live, or you can just check out the podcast. It doesn't matter where you go. You can download if you've got that Faith Radio app. So give it a try. And if you don't like it, it's easy just to delete it off your phone, but I'm pretty sure you'll keep it. That's all the time we have. Have a great night, everyone. See you tomorrow. Thanks for listening. Programming like this is made available through your support. Information available at myfaithradio.com.